English translation, 317th contact, Monday 17th of December 2001 at 23:47 hours.
Here I am again, dear friend, and now I have all the data that I have to tell you and that you want to have. Florina and Zafinat Paneich have already evaluated and compiled everything today, so I can visit you for the second time today and explain everything to you. Unfortunately, there are some very unpleasant facts, some of which will also bring you pain and suffering, but unfortunately, this cannot be changed. But listen to what I have to explain.
You are really encouraging me with that announcement.
If I understand your words correctly, then you mean exactly the opposite. Unfortunately, this is how it will be, because certain explanations will hit you very hard and cause you great pain, as is also true for me, but also for Florina, who cried. I felt the same inside, and you will not be spared from this either, because what has been in the offing for some time will now happen.
Talk like that so we can get it over with. The unknown is bad enough. Speak, my friend, and do not hold back with your bad news for long.
Very well, so be it. Tomorrow, the 18th of December, Margaret Rose will bid farewell to life, for her spirit form will evaporate from her old body and enter the afterlife.
Yes, but that was to be expected, since after all, she is over 90 years old. In March 2002, she would be about 92 or so. And since she's been in hospital with severe pneumonia for a few days now, I have already focused my thoughts on that and started to process everything so that I will not be hit unexpectedly when she dies. She was always a very dear person to me and like a grandmother.
Your actions in this regard are good, and I am sure you will have found it easier than you will at the next event that is coming up in 2 weeks' time, Sunday, December 30th. It is very unfortunate, and it pains me to have to explain what is to come, because it means a heavy blow for you as well as for me.
Speak up, my friend.
It will be hard for you because, again, an honest love on your part will break, as it has happened so often in your life.
That I think I understand what you mean. It really hurts like hell, and yes, it can only be so. It is Edith, because for some time now things have been going on in her that are contrary to her destiny and reality. We have already talked about this several times, including the fact that she cannot find her way to certain things in herself and to the right connection with her destiny and reality because of her unsteadiness.
Your words make it easier for me to give my explanation. Yes, your thoughts are going in the right direction, because this is exactly what you have just spoken about. Edith was not able to find her true path to herself in all the years you two were together, nor the path to her real destiny and reality. All her actions, thoughts, and feelings unfortunately still depend on her unsteadiness, which makes her restless and unable to find the way to her true feelings. And all this will lead to her having a conversation with you on the 30th of December, which will cause a separation, and also in the sense that there will be a dispensation from the group membership and all group duties for at least 1 year. What will happen after that, I do not want to explain for the time being, but only at the end of our conversation, if at all. However, the group community can safely assume that Edith's return to the community is still open, at least for the time being, because it is not yet certain with certainty whether Edith will find her way to herself, to her real destiny and to reality, because her volatility is exceptionally great and leaves her to live in restlessness. I know and I see, dear friend, that this hits you very hard and moves you, but I also know that you will still love her, and that you will maintain a deep friendship, which will be as unquestionable as all the years that have passed.
I am sure that will be the case. Yes, I will have to deal with it, even if it hurts like hell. But please, let us not talk about it any further.
As you wish. So I want to talk about other things you asked me to explain, and which will continue in 2002.
Yes, please. With this, I can distract myself from my unpleasant and painful thoughts.
Quetzal and you already talked in the 70s about the fact that the terror and counter-terror in different countries of the world will increase drastically in the third millennium, whereby special terror organizations as well as America and Israel will be the main forces of this kind. Since the terrorist attack of the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization on the World Trade Center in America, this will increase in an extremely unpleasant wise from now on. On the one hand, by the American armed and secret forces, and on the other hand, by the irrationality and the hatred and vindictiveness of Israel and the Palestinians. The latter, triggered by Ariel Sharon's human criminal machinations against the Palestinians, will carry out ever more vehemently senseless and equally human criminal attacks on innocent Israelis, using suicide squads of individual or several fanatics to carry out bloody terror. The year 2002 will be marked in particular by these terrorist crimes, for which the secret and military forces of Israel and America will also bear much of the blame.
Everyone is simply fanatical and hateful and vindictive. They do not think anything of the dignity and life of humans. Neither one nor the other is better, because all of them are sick in the head, crazy and confused, besides the fact that they are addicted to power and war and know no responsibility for life, true love, true freedom, and effective peace. They do not want to bear any responsibility at all for the others, and so they do not want any real freedom for the others, but only slavery and servitude. Nor do they want true peace, because such a peace would mean the end of all terror and counter-terror and war. The consequences of a true peace would be extremely fatal for some countries, because they would no longer be able to produce and sell weapons of war for their own and foreign armament, from which inevitably many branches of industry would get into difficulties, and they would have to report many unemployed. In addition to the fact that many would go bankrupt and the stock exchanges and banking transactions, etc., would collapse. The warmongers would lose their posts and be deposed, imprisoned or banished, and the warmongers and secret service agents who were so fond of playing warriors would lose their degenerate purpose in life, perhaps to dive into the criminal world of economic criminality, etc., etc. Real peace would be a hellish catastrophe for the powerful of the world, for the secret services, the military, and for the entire world economy, as well as for mercenaries and war adventurers of all kinds. For certain states such as America, the debacle would be to stop playing world police and to stop invading foreign countries unjustifiably and criminally, destroying them with bombs and rockets and razing them to the ground to spread death 1,000 times over. But the inhumane crimes of the war powers will continue, as you say, and everything is no longer terrorism and counter-terrorism, even if the whole thing is played down and presented as an act of freedom and defense.
You hit the words that need to be said. But let me explain in order some other events that will take place in the coming year and will move the human beings. Thus, on Thursday, the 17th of January 2002, in the east of the Congo in Africa, the volcano near the city of Gomo on Lake Kivu will rise in violent eruptions, which will be associated with many earthquakes. The lava and gases flowing out of a gigantic underground magma lake will not only destroy a large part of the city of Gomo, but also a number of villages. The volcano Nyiragongo, as it is called, has always been a very dangerous mountain, which has already brought a lot of suffering to the human beings there. Last year it erupted in March, as in January 1977, when 2,638 people died in a pulpy lava flowing out of the mountain.
I remember. Nyiragongo, if I remember correctly, is located in a national park called Virunga or something like that, and it is said to be the most active volcano in Africa.
The national park is not called Virunga, but Virunga. In fact, the volcano is the most active in Africa.
Thanks for the lecture. Now something completely different. Did you take care of the Figu Japan issues?
Certainly.
And what do you have to say to this? You have read my letters to the Figu Japan members.
Your explanations in your letters were very precise and correct. You conducted yourself as was to be expected of you. Regarding the management of Figu Japan and the application of the statutes in the Japan group, I have unfortunately found in my clarifications that it is necessary that you inform the board and the members of the group that the application of the statutes must be handled more clearly and appropriately. Exclusions of members may only occur when violations of the statutes occur in 3 different times, as was unfortunately quite obviously the case with Nobuyuki Baba. However, it is in no wise acceptable for members to be excluded just because they disagree with the president or several group members. It is fair that the Figu members' own opinions can and must be represented and expressed in the same fashion as is the case, and must be, with other Figu groupings. If the opinions of other members are disregarded by the board and are not put forward for discussion, this means that the board is in breach of the Figu statutes and the spirit of the Figu mission, which is designed to ensure that all humans have the same rights and duties. Therefore, as a result of other opinions or given differences of opinion, no member may be expelled or any office of the board or other office of any member may be withheld or taken away. Every worldwide Figu member must have the right to freedom of expression, and this is a factor which is not handled correctly in Figu Japan. Therefore, this unjust and Figu unworthy behavior must be changed immediately, which you must urgently inform Figu Japan as soon as your time allows. It will be best if you pass on my words to the letter, so that no misunderstandings arise. Unfortunately, it will not be possible for me to give you our current conversation until the end of January or the beginning of February, so you should wait with your information to Figu Japan until then. Unfortunately, my clarifications and my probability calculations, as well as a forecast, have shown that until then, some inconsistencies will still arise in the aforementioned incorrect manner of handling the statutes. But these will have to be corrected and rectified by Figu Japan. This especially refers to future actions in terms of warnings, etc., that will be issued against Hidetoshi and Kuniko as a result of their concerns and opinions that they will bring to light, which will be in accordance with their perfect right. Their concerns and opinions will be justified, so there will be no need for warnings, because their behavior in this regard will not be in accordance with any of the articles of the statutes that would lead to warnings, etc., etc. It is imperative that the right of freedom of expression is maintained and respected. And if this is not guaranteed by the board and the members, then this will be a serious violation of the articles of the Figu statutes. It is obvious that these articles of the statutes are misunderstood or incompletely understood by the board and the members of Figu Japan, and consequently, they are misapplied. In order to clear up this misunderstanding, it is urgently necessary that you clarify these issues with the board of the Japan Group in detail and make the actual facts understandable to everyone. To do this, it is necessary that the responsible persons come to the center so that you can clear them up. For this, it will be necessary that a suitable language translator explains everything in detail in an understandable form to the persons in charge who are coming here. It is also urgently necessary, as I found out during my clarification, that it is pointed out in detail that also in Figu, Japan, there is no hierarchy, but that every member of the group is equal in every respect, and therefore has the same rights in every respect. No member of the board may rise above another member, just as no other member may rise above the board. The office of the board of directors, namely of every member of the board of directors, does not entitle in any way to rise above other members, to make arrangements with other board members or members regarding agenda items, or to make own decisions. Items on the agenda may not be discussed among members or even among the members of the board, because a meeting may only take place at the open General Assembly. Therefore, the items on the agenda may only be presented openly at the General Assembly. While the announcement of the agenda must be made under an abbreviation that does not reveal what the item to be discussed is. Every group member has the right to submit an agenda item in writing up to 1 week before the general meeting, which must then be discussed at the general meeting. It is absolutely inadmissible to simply disregard submitted written agenda items and not to bring them forward. It is also inadmissible that the executive committee alone passes any resolutions or that secret ballots are held. Every vote, no matter what its purpose, is to be carried out openly, namely in the form that during the General Assembly, a vote is taken by raising hands for yes or no, whereby the votes by raising hands are to be counted openly, and the majority of the votes for or against are decisive, that is to say, completely in accordance with the majority decision. If this is not done, it is a serious violation of the Figu statutes. It is imperative that you discuss all these matters with the responsible persons of Figu, Japan, and clarify everything. For this purpose, however, it will be necessary that the corresponding members come to the center, since you cannot travel to Japan.
You are right. As translator, I would suggest Mrs. Setsuko Straser Kono. She also does all the translations for Figu, Japan.
Of course, that is your decision. And besides that, I think your suggestion is very good, because Mrs. Strasser is well versed and familiar with the issues concerning Figu, Japan.
Very well. Then I will consult her immediately when the time comes. But why is it not possible for you to send me this conversation earlier than the end of January or the beginning of February?
Because I will be absent, and with my daughter in the Dal universe, until the 28th of January 2002. If there are any urgencies on your part, Florina will be responsible. If necessary, she can inform me.
And what about correcting and writing the old contact reports?
Florina and Injana will do that. If I have time, I will intervene once or twice. But that will be very questionable because I will be fully occupied.
And how do you propose to intervene?
That would be possible for me via relay stations.
And not transmitting the report?
Unfortunately not, because for that I would have to be present in the SOL system, because our transmission equipment has a limited range.
And why can Florina not take charge of that?
Because the records are only present with me.
I see. Actually, I'm stupid. Should have well known that. Tell me something. There are asteroids and comets flying around all the time. When will be the next such event where I think of a comet that you could observe?
That will be in the middle of March in the year 2002. Under good visibility conditions, a comet can be observed from Earth with the naked eye or at least with small telescopes or binoculars. But it will not be discovered by terrestrial astronomers until after the turn of the year, when it moves towards the constellation of Pegasus. We call the comet Palton, although terrestrial astronomers will of course give it a different name.
Again and again I am asked about the so-called purification of the body, as there are many means by which the human body is or could be purified. I have asked you about this before, but I also contacted Dr. Flaxman, whereupon I received the answer from both of you that the whole thing is nonsense, because no waste products can form in the human body, respectively in its stomach and intestines, which would have to be flushed out by any means and cures.
I can only give you the same answer again because the machinations of profit-greedy people in this regard are pure nonsense. If waste products were to form in the human body, this would be a danger to life for the person because the stomach and intestines, etc., would be sealed, blocked, and not function properly, which would result in an agonizing death. Only in this respect do believers succumb to the nonsense of such claims and profiteering, as a result of which they also take such nonsensical purification cures for a lot of money, while all other people who do not succumb to nonsense can live comfortably and healthily without such nonsense cures.
The same answer. What is actually going on with the Israeli strongman, with Ariel Sharon?
He will show his true murderous spirit in a short time, when it will come out of him that it is a great pity that he did not kill Yasser Arafat already 20 years ago. Sharon will act more and more murderously and irresponsibly with regard to the Palestinians and will violate all human rights, just like U.S. President Bush will do and will be praised worldwide for his inhuman acts of terror, including the many death sentences he was responsible for as governor. Bush as well as Sharon are both murderers, as the Earth humans tend to say. But instead of being stopped, they are being praised for their murderous atrocities.
And if possible, honored with prizes.
Your assumption is not unreasonable.
You and Ketzel both explained to me that in the new millennium, genetic engineering will be at an all-time high. For example, plant and animal genes will be mixed.
That will actually be the case, and indeed, Japanese scientists will put plant genes into pigs.
Then another question. Were there early connections between Aristotle, Apollo, Zeus, and consorts, and the ancient Lyrans and vegans?
No.
Now, I would like to ask you about Edith after all. Have you been able to clarify why she has constant back pain?
Certainly I have clarified that, and the matter looks a little unpleasant for her. Like you said, she's also trying to get rid of it with gymnastics exercises. But she should refrain from doing just that because it will aggravate her suffering, which consists of two different fundamental factors. Firstly, everything is based on shortening one leg, and secondly, a certain curvature of the spine plays a decisive role. This damage and the pain, however, cannot be remedied by gymnastics or back exercises, as you said, because such exercises promote the whole thing even more, so that over time, even if nothing is done about it, a greater damage is caused, which can lead to the fact that crutches are ultimately needed for locomotion, in the worst case even a locomotion aid, which you call a wheelchair. So gymnastic exercises should be avoided, but exact examinations should be carried out. Even in your world, it is now possible to make a definitive diagnosis of the curvature of the spinal column by means of 3D computer examinations, according to which the necessary measures can then be taken. These consist of making special shoes with special insoles, which should then be worn by Edith every day without exception. If such shoes and insoles are used, then the back pain will be relieved in a short time, and there is also the possibility, even if it is minor, that the curvature of the spine will be somewhat corrected. In any case, the back pain will be resolved with absolute certainty if everything is approached in the right way with the special shoes and insoles, and if these are worn daily without exception. It is therefore within the capacity of Edith's discipline to act in this form, for indeed there is no other possibility on the earth at present to deal with the malady. Better possibilities for such damage. as is peculiar to Edith, will only be invented in the more distant future by earthly scientists of medicine, etc. So the necessary should be done as is possible at present. And it would give me great pleasure if Edith would act according to my advice and thereby free herself from her pain.
Thank you. But tell me, what has Quetzal been able to do about the little control discs?
He assures that everything will work for the time being, which will bring you much relief. He will have everything ready on time. Then I would like to give you some information that you should keep to yourself and keep quiet about on the one hand. And on the other hand, you can prepare yourself for everything if you are oriented about everything beforehand, especially about the unpleasant things that will appear and that you will have to deal with and, on the other hand, find your bearings with. It also affects Edith, which affects me particularly deeply and hurts me. It is not only her turning away, for all the reasons lie deeper, but I will only tell you about them in your discretion.
Then speak, my friend. You have my word on it that I will keep silent about everything you tell me in confidence.
There is no need for your promise, for I know that it is your duty to keep silent when I point out to you what I have done. So listen.
If I leave out the pleasant things, there are some really unpleasant things that I will have to work hard at. But there is nothing I can do about it, as you say. So I will have to accept it, for better or worse, as the group members and humanity have to.
Actually, nothing can be changed.
Exactly. The course has been set for everyone, including my purely private concerns. I often wish that I could change and prevent some things. Maybe I wish that only too often. It is always so damned hard when you are so helpless and powerless, when you know things of the future and are not able to change them. I could really cry about it a lot, but the pain closes my throat and the tears seep inside.
You are not alone with this because it happens to me as well. But if this were not so, then we would be undignified, inhumane, and emotionally cold.
I guess you are right. But very often everything is very difficult to bear. Even becoming knowledgeable and wise does not protect you from it. But many things could be changed by human beings if they would only find themselves and reality. But they prefer to be content in their own inadequacy, unbalancedness, and dissatisfaction, as well as in their inconsistency, which prevents them from setting themselves a firm, clear, and valueful, rational, and culmination point full of responsibility, and from striving for and achieving it. And since they are unable to do so out of their own inadequacy, they rush from one evil to another, chasing from one place to another, changing their interests, places of residence, life partners, acquaintances and friends as quickly and as often as they do with their clothes. There is no steadiness in them, as well as no dignity and self-respect, but also no real responsibility and no real consistency. So the humans live only into the day and thoughtlessly next to each other, get stuck in false ideas, wishes, and hopes, and believe that this is real life and their real goal and will, without realizing that they are deceiving themselves. And in this state, joylessness and dissatisfaction grow in them, from which again wrong ideas, views, fantasies, and conceptions arise, which, however, do not lead any further than into their own misery, as well as to mistakes, quarrels, strife, misunderstandings, hatred, revenge, retaliation, and war. But how can one who thinks and acts so be made to understand this when they turn away from all rational, well-meant, honest and valuable as well as responsible advice and stubbornly go their own false ways with their own wrong thoughts, feelings, and actions, through which they run into error and confusion as well as into misery and ruin? There is really no advice that can help those humans who think, feel, and act like this because, in the end, everyone is their own lord and master, and therefore everyone must take responsibility for himself or herself and decide and handle everything themselves. So if humans are to change to rationality and responsibility and find the right path for their lives, then only they alone can do so. One can only give them advice, but they themselves must transform this advice into that which is good and progressive. However, only few do this, because most believe that they are the creation itself and therefore infallible. Their path is the one of least resistance, with the stupidity of the saying, "After me the flood."
I have nothing more to say about this, for your words present the facts so clearly that further explanations are unnecessary. But now, dear friend, I would like to discuss with you some matters of a purely private nature. I also have some more work to hand over to you, for which you are asked by our spiritual leaders to take it to hand and do it for us.
Of course.
Then I would like to start with the following question.